Up to the minute, the standings in the NFC East, Philadelphia 11-4, coming off their win over the Denver Broncos in Philly today. Tony Romo having a great season for the Cowboys. The Cowboy quarterback on the field moments ago with Andrea Kramer. Andrea.
Thanks a lot, Al. Well, Tony, the team is coming off arguably its best win of the season, knocking off the previously undefeated Saints. So how do you avoid a letdown against the 4-10 Redskins?
Well, you just come out and execute. We had a good week of practice. The guys prepared hard, and I think that's all you can do going into a football game. But now it's up to us to go out there and take care of business.
This December is unlike previous Decembers in terms of your play. 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Why the improvement?
Well, it's not about any one individual. The team's playing, what we feel like is up to a standard. We've started to, and I think we just need to continue getting better and improving. And if you do that, the rest of it just takes care of itself.
All right, Tony, thanks very much. Appreciate your time. Well, news was made in Washington this week by Albert Hainsworth. He showed up late for meetings on Christmas Day and was subsequently sent home for disciplinary reasons, after which he ripped the team and defensive coordinator Greg Blash. But despite all that, Jim Zorn told me Hainsworth will get the start tonight.
Thank you, Andrea. Well, what would you expect for $40 million guaranteed, right? Perfect comportment.
Maybe a smile.
Yeah. David Beeler will be kicking off for the Dallas Cowboys. They drafted him to be their kickoff specialist, and it's really paid off as he has 23 touchbacks this season, and the Cowboys have won the field position battle in almost every game this year. And for what it's worth, I don't know whether it's an omen or a what, on a night where it is not necessarily that windy, the ball falls off the tee. Speaking of the Cowboy kicker and special teams, Joe DeCamillis, who is their special teams coach, underwent an emergency appendectomy here today, so he is not here. And our very best to Joe, who's had a year to forget on his own, except for the fact that his special teams are playing extremely well. It's a bouncing ball kickoff. It's taken at the 8-yard line by Marcus Mason, and Mason brings it back up to the 19-yard line as we take a look at the Washington starting offense.
Jason Campbell, Auburn. Quinton Ganther, Utah. Mike Sellers, North Thurston High School.
Santana Moss,
EU. Malcolm Kelly, Longview High School.
Fred Davis, USC.
Levi Jones, Arizona State.
Derek Dockery, Texas.
Casey Rabach, Wisconsin.
Mike Williams, Texas.
Stephon Hire, University of Maryland.
10 different starting offensive linemen for the Redskins this season. Injury racked up front. And a toss to Quinton Ganther, and he gets taken down by Anthony Spencer, losing his footing. A lot of rain here last week, and the field is soggy.
Well, already the Washington Redskins, a bit of a slow start here. Anthony Spencer over here on the right-hand side of your screen, faked inside it, fooled Mike Sellers, and then he jumped back outside, and Ganther just had nowhere to go.
Begin with a loss of 4. Ganther is their 4th starting running back this year. Clinton Portis, concussion mid-year, and he's on injured reserve, and the pressure is on, but the pass gets away to Ganther, and Ganther, with some nifty running and breaking tackles, picks up a first down as he gets out to the 31-yard line, and he's tackled by Brady James. So the heat came on through the middle from Brooking, and Campbell was able to read it, get it off, and pick up the first on a 2nd and 14.
Keith Brooking has been coming on a lot of blitzes lately, so what do the Redskins do? They go screen right where Brooking typically is, right behind him to try and slow that blitz down a little.
From the 31 on first down. They run the draw this time, and this is Ganther up to the 39-yard line. Jason Campbell took over as the Redskins quarterback about the same time that Tony Romo took over for the Cowboys mid-year 2006. He was the #1 draft choice of the Redskins in 05 out of Auburn. So here he is making his 31st consecutive start. What kind of a year has he had? Okay, I guess. 2nd and 2. Ganther. And And I put it that way, Chris, because as we take a look at, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's take a look at the Dallas defense.
Marcus Spears, Louisiana State.
Jay Ratliff, Auburn.
Igor Olshansky, Oregon.
Anthony Spencer, Purdue.
Grady James, LSU. Keith Brooking, Georgia Tech.
Marcus Ware, Troy.
Terrence Newman, Kansas State.
Gerald Sensabaugh, North Carolina.
Ken Hamlin, Arkansas.
Mike Jenkins, South Florida.
And good to see Ware back as he was last week after that scary injury 2 weeks ago. Santana Moss lines up in the backfield next to Campbell. And a 3rd and 3. Campbell buys time and then has that intercepted, and that's Terrence Newman, and that's his 8th career interception against the Washington Redskins. 8 of his lifetime 24, and he brings that back to the 35-yard line. So a deflected pass. It was deflected off the hands of the tight end Fred Davis, and Newman with a pick and sets Dallas up with a short field.
Well, Fred Davis is going to come all the way across the field here, and Jason Campbell, as he's had to do throughout the course of this season, steps up and really just tried to make too perfect a throw there. When you've got a zone sitting on the outside, it was Terrence Newman just sitting there and waiting. Once that ball was tipped, it was over for Jason Campbell, and not exactly the kind of start you're hoping for after what happened to this Redskins team last week.
Campbell's 15th interception of the season, and now Tony Romo on the Dallas offense. Marion Barber is the running back. 3 receivers set to the left, and so Romo goes to the right side, and the pass is incomplete as Roy Williams falls down, covered by Hall. Let's take a look at the Dallas starting lineup.
Tony Romo, Eastern Illinois.
Marion Barber III, Minnesota.
Roy Williams, Texas.
Miles Austin, Monmouth.
Jason Witten, Tennessee.
John Phillips, Virginia.
Lozelle Adams, Michigan State.
Kyle Kozar, Arizona State.
Andre Gerard, Colorado.
Leonard Davis, Texas. Doug Free, Northern Illinois.
Doug Free doing a nice job taking over for the injured Mark Colombo. And now the pass goes to Miles Austin, who has really emerged this year, and he gets blanketed by the defense led by Philip Daniels. Tony Romo playing great football of late in particular. Hasn't had a pass picked off since November 22nd. 158 pass attempts without an interception. And on the season, when you can throw 23 touchdowns and only have 7 interceptions, and your rating is close to 100, you're having a good year. 3rd and 9. Tashard Choice comes into the game in the backfield. Blitz coming. Romo fires over the middle, and it's caught by Creighton, and Patrick Creighton gets tripped up at the 19-yard line. So they convert on 3rd and long. D'Angelo Hall makes the tackle. First down, Dallas.
One of the things that you see with the Washington Redskins is they love to make late moves here. As a matter of fact, Tony Romo was saying he felt like he could use that against them, that sometimes they get themselves out of position. He saw the 2 deep safeties, found the hole right in the middle. Nice read by Romo.
First and 10. Felix Jones is now in the game. They have a 3-headed rushing attack with Barber, Choice, and Jones. And they hand it to Jones, an explosive runner, and he gains 9 to the 10-yard line. The runners for Dallas, Barber is averaging 4.3, which is pretty good. Jones is averaging 5.9, which is great. And Choice is averaging 5.5.
Oh, you got Kyle Kozar right over here. The left guard's going to pull out and around and make a pretty clever move here to get that edge sealed off there. Really made the difference on the play. He got Arakpo on the outside.
Arakpo, their #1 draft choice and a candidate for Rookie of the Year with 11 sacks. 2nd and 1. Marion Barber comes back into the game, this time with the fullback, Deion Anderson. And they give it to Barber, and that will make it a first down, 1st and goal at the 8-yard line. Let's take a look at the Washington defense.
Philip Daniels, Donaldsonville, Georgia.
Cornelius Griffin, Alabama.
Albert Hainsworth III, University of Tennessee.
Andre Carter, University of California.
Brian Arakpo, Texas.
London Fletcher, John Carroll University.
Rocky McIntosh.
The U.
Carlos Rogers, Auburn.
LeRon Land, LSU.
Reed Dowdy, Northern Colorado.
D'Angelo Hall, Virginia Tech.
Hainsworth is out of the game on a 1st and goal. Plays about 60% of the plays. Barber swinging to the right side and turning the corner and gets about half the distance to the goal line. He's tackled there by LaRon Landry. As you look at the defensive coordinator, Greg Blosh, who is a holdover from the Joe Gibbs regime.
Yeah, and Greg Blosh has had a rough week this week, courtesy of Albert Hainsworth and some of his comments. Hainsworth doesn't like his style of defense and went so far as to say he didn't think that he could play under it in the future. And Jim Zorn may not care. He may not be here next year either. But Greg Blosh has done too good a job here with the Redskins to deserve those kinds of comments.
2nd down and goal. Play fake. Romo checking off. Extending the play. Throwing. Touchdown. Roy Williams in the back corner of the end zone. That is what Romo does so well and never any better than he's done this season. Buys time. Has that peripheral vision, that instinct, just knows where the pressure is coming from, extends the play, and it pays off for 6.
Well, Tony Romo beat the Redskins on a play just about like this, escaping pressure late and makes just a brilliant throw. He sort of says he got his confidence to move around and escape in the pocket from playing basketball. He said, if I could end up doing it on the basketball court, how come 300-pounders can catch me? And there he is in to hold, and we all know that story.
He's holding for Sean Sweezum, and the crowd is booing you. Sweezum, a couple of weeks ago, was checking with Washington and missed 2 field goals against Dallas and missed a big one against New Orleans. Newman's interception, Romo's touchdown pass, 7-0 Dallas. And now the kickoff here by Beeler. This is Rock Cartwright. And he brings it back to the 25-yard line with 8:26 to go in the opening quarter. Dallas leading 7-0. Jason Campbell, 26-yard line. Washington's 2nd drive, and it begins with a play fake and a toss to the right side, and this time it is Fred Davis making the catch, and that is a 1st down. It's a gain of 17 up to the 43-yard line.
That time they brought Fred Davis across the formation here and pretended like he was going to block and then comes out on the bootleg. And really that's probably what Jason Campbell does best, which is get out on the edge, make some plays with his feet, put pressure on the defense. But I like to call that time by the Redskins to get him back going again after the interception.
Chance for him to shine with Chris Cooley on injured reserve for the last several weeks. And then Campbell goes deep, and the pass is incomplete. And you got a flag down with Santana Moss, the intended receiver, and Mike Jenkins with the coverage. And Jenkins is indicating it should be offensive. Here's John
Pass
Parry.
interference, number 89, offense. Pulling the receiver, defender's arm down. 10-yard penalty. 1st down.
And Jenkins would be correct.
I got to admit, I didn't see much here. Let's take another look. If anything, well, Jenkins was kind of sticking his arm in there, and Santana Moss grabbed back. But, you know, for the most part, that's 2 football players going at it. And let's see, one more time.
Yeah, left
oh, there you go. Yeah,
right.
That's a good call.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got to give him that. Grabbed his bicep, he sure did, and pulled him right to the ground.
So Washington now 1st and 20. The ball is back at the 34-yard line. And Campbell to the left side now. That's a gain of a few yards for Antoine Randall. Chris, I made the remark before. I said, you know, what kind of a year has Campbell had? Okay. You know what okay means? If you look at the numbers, he ranks in the middle in just about every major category. You know, somewhere between like 14th and 18th among the 32 starting quarterbacks. So that's an okay year.
That's an okay year. And really it sort of defines his career in many ways here. He's been okay, and Jim Zorn was brought in part to work with him and try and make him a little bit better. He was bad last week, but had a couple of good games before that. It's kind of the way it's been.
2nd and 15, and that pass is too high and intended for Moss. It's a forward pass. Cowboys going after it, thinking they had a chance that it was a lateral or backward pass, and it's incomplete. It'll be 3rd down and 15. Campbell throws a lot of his passes short, more than 3/4 of them to targets within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, and that's partly the system and partly his receivers.
Well, he's in sort of a West Coast style of offense. I don't know that really fits him. I think there are some styles like a Norv Turner kind of offense where you pound the run game in there, you throw it down the field, you use a mobile quarterback. And this quick throw offense may not be to his liking.
3rd and 15. And he gets buried at the 33-yard line, and that is Jay Ratliff, who went to the Pro Bowl last year. And Ratliff and Campbell played together for 4 years at Auburn. How do you do?
Well, first of all, you get DeMarcus Ware using an inside move and forcing Campbell to step up. And then, as we have seen, it is Jay Ratliff with the late pressure and the big hit on his former buddy.
Hunter Smith the punt, a short kick, and a fair catch called for by Patrick Creighton at the 31. 6:56 to go in the quarter. Cowboys with the ball and a 7-0 advantage. Dallas with a win clinches a playoff spot. And with a win tonight, as Jerry Jones and family look on, they go home next week. They meet Philadelphia, and the winner of that game wins the division and hosts a playoff game, at least one. Romo rolling, play fake, buying time, stepping away, and then gets taken to the turf by number 93, Philip Daniels, back at the line of scrimmage.
And I believe that's Philip Daniels' first sack of the season. Redskins really had the line of scrimmage stacked that time, and Tony Romo thought he was stepping up into a hole that was completely vacated and probably felt like he had a good chance to take off and run, and just simply did not see Philip Daniels coming from the backside.
Daniels gets a sack on a 3/4 of a yard sack. Tony almost made it back to the line of scrimmage. It's 2nd down and 11. The ball is at the 30. Felix Jones is the running back. Here goes Felix. Not very far, though. The tackle is made by Cornelius Griffin. 10th year in the league. Former New York Giant. Stopping him in his tracks. 3rd and 9.
Well, one thing they're definitely going to do is try and double team Albert Haynesworth whenever possible. That's what he's brought to this defense. And the double team that time worked, but Haynesworth, who probably has a little incentive to play tonight after being in the headlines all week long, my feeling is he better show up and play after some of the comments.
3rd and 9. And Romo has that deflected. Creighton couldn't make the catch because he got whacked by London Fletcher. London Fletcher playing as well as ever. 12 years in the league. The fire plug, 5'10", 245 pounds.
Check out the big guy again here. Albert Haynesworth that time coming with a little anger, coming with a little motivation. And on the back end, that's a forearm to the helmet and could have easily and probably should have been called on London Fletcher.
Got away with it. Matt McBriar to do the punting. And this is a beauty, and it backs Moss up to his own 9-yard line. And Santana running across the field. Here comes a flag, and anytime you see a guy run about 35 yards laterally, all you do is look for the yellow, almost invariably.
During the return, holding number 31. Half the distance, 1st and 10, Washington.
Brock Cartwright, 5:20 to go. Opening quarter, 7-0. Dallas, ooh, what a shot. Everybody but General Sherman is involved this year in the Redskin offense. Sherman Smith, the running game coordinator. They brought in Sherman Lewis as a consultant, longtime assistant coach, many years under Mike Holmgren in Green Bay. And he had been retired, and they bring him back. And Jim Zorn, of course, is the head coach. So there are a lot of chefs and cooks in the kitchen as Quinton Ganther picks up about 3. And, you know, Chris, they bring in Jim Zorn. They make him the head coach. He's going to be the play caller. And the next thing you know, Vinny Serrato, who leaves the team about 3 weeks ago and gets his job taken over by Bruce Allen. So, I mean, in the meantime, you have really a lot of confusion in terms of who calls what when.
Yeah, and it hasn't always worked out so well. But I will say this, that Sherm Lewis, since he came back, has really helped this team. Offensively, they have been better since he started calling the plays.
2nd and 7. And Campbell's pass is incomplete. Again, another short pass intended for Ganther. And the coverage is perfect. Brady James put the pressure on Campbell that time, and it's 3rd down and 7.
You know, Sherm Lewis said they called him and asked him to come back as a consultant. He was like, yeah, I've been retired 4 or 5 years. Why not? Make a little money out of this thing. It's a 3-month job. Sounds good to me. 2 weeks later, Vinny Serrato called him and said, not only do we want you to install the plays, we want you to call the plays. He goes back to Jim Zorn and he goes, hey, I'm sorry, man. I had no idea. But he said my only choice was to do it or leave.
3rd and 7. He was calling bingo games. Much has been made of that. The first call they played here was B14. And that pass is incomplete. And here's a flag.
Prior to the pass, holding, number 94, defense, 5-yard penalty, automatic, 1st down.
So that's DeMarcus Ware with the hold and an automatic 1st.
Right here, Malcolm Kelly's going to come in motion, and DeMarcus Ware on a zone drop is going to come from the other side and just grab and hold him there as he was trying to come across the field. Pretty easy call for the officials. So many times when you get a great pass rusher like DeMarcus Ware, the tendency is for the offense to slide their protection that way, so a lot of defenses will drop their best guy out in coverage.
And this is Marcus Mason, who is the number 2 running back right now out of Youngstown State. Clinton Portis, concussion, gone. Liddell Betts on injured reserve as well. So Ganther is the guy who comes in. They had Rock Cartwright as well, and now you've got Marcus Mason backing him up. So it's been a mess along the offensive front for Washington, and everybody but your mother-in-law has run the ball for them. 2nd and 3. And again, Mason taken down by James. To illustrate the Redskin offensive woes and the injuries, Randy Thomas starting right guard, Chris Samuels left tackle, both injured reserve early. 10 different starting offensive linemen, tied for the 2nd most in the league. Betts played 10 games. Portis played 8 before that concussion. And tied for the most different starting running backs in the league this year. And then of course, you know, with Sherman Lewis and Sherman Smith and Jim Zorn, well, you get the picture. 1st and 10 from the 27-yard line. Mason again.
You know, Alan, I think you have to go back a little bit to the Albert Haynesworth decision. And not that Albert Haynesworth hasn't had an impact. He certainly has here. Has really helped the outside pass rushers. They've gotten a lot more sacks than what they did a season ago. But to me, the big question mark coming into this football season was the Redskins' offensive line. And basically, the Redskins rolled the dice a little bit that some of their older players could hold up and could survive the season. And they came up snake eyes on that decision, because right now this offensive line is made up of a lot of guys off the street and really not frontline offensive linemen.
2nd down and 10. And Campbell flushed out of the pocket, and a flag on the opposite side of the field at the 27-yard line.
The ruling on the field is an incomplete pass.
You know, the guy that I think has made
the snap, offside. Number 93 defense, 5-yard penalty, replay, 2nd down.
Anthony Spencer.
Well, no wonder Anthony Spencer's been playing so much better here lately. He gets a little head start on everybody. But he really has. Anthony Spencer has been the guy, Al, that I think has made the biggest difference. You know, he didn't get a sack until like week 11 of the season, and DeMarcus Ware over there on the other side, 20 sacks a season ago. But when Anthony Spencer started making plays, boy, you could really see this entire defense pick up.
Right, and Mike Jenkins has also done a very good job at corner. Ray Phillips saying he should be considered for the Pro Bowl, and the pass is caught by Malcolm Kelly, and Kelly is very close to a first down. And just to finish up on the Redskins, because we were talking about all the woes and all of that, Bruce Allen coming in, we talked about that, to run the football operations. It's 98%. Jim Zorn will not be here next year. Going out with dignity and class, by the way. He takes the high road, and everybody seems to think Mike Shanahan is going to be the guy, and clearly Mike Shanahan is very much in the mix as you look at Bruce Allen, the son of the former Redskin coach, the great George Allen. 3rd and 1 from the 37-yard line, and Campbell will take it himself up to the 38. And you look at a guy like Campbell, if he stays, he will go into another offensive system. In high school, he played with a couple of different systems every year in college. Then he comes to Washington. So here's a guy who probably knows every offensive scheme imaginable.
Well, and what's interesting is that he's a restricted free agent. So that means, provided what happens to the collective bargaining agreement, which could change a few things, but he is a guy that will have a chance to test the market, and then if the Redskins want to match that offer, they could. So a lot's going to be decided by whoever the coach is after this season.
From the 38. And adjusting and coming down and not making the catch in bounds is Malcolm Kelly. He's able to come up with the pass, but he was on the chalk.
Well, Malcolm Kelly getting a chance here against Mike Jenkins, and I'd have to say, out of everybody on the defense of the Dallas Cowboys, the greatest improvement from one year to the next has been with Mike Jenkins. This is a guy that Wade Phillips says just learn how to fire. That when he saw it last year, he didn't react with great confidence. This year he has an arrogance to him out there. He plays a lot of bump and run. He gets in the face of these receivers, and has just had a tremendous year.
2nd and 10. Mason runs into a bunch of blue shirts after a short gain. Igor Olshansky, number 99, former Charger, led that charge. It will be 3rd down and 9.
Igor Olshansky, probably one of the strongest guys in the National Football League, came over from Russia, didn't even play football until his senior year of high school. But when he asked Wade Phillips about him, what does he say, Al? Strong like bull, right?
Strong like bull.
That's who he is. It is hard to run at Igor Olshansky.
He looks like he's strong.
Yes, he
like
does.
bull. 3rd down and 9. Final minute of the opening stanza. And over the middle, that is caught, and trying to get the first down, but a great tackle is made on Malcolm Kelly by Brady James, who didn't let him get the extra 2 yards that would have moved the chains.
Well, I tell you, nobody ever talks about Brady James, but here's a guy that has simply led this team in tackles forever, and he is once again. And after being paired with Keith Brooking now this season, they have 2 dynamic inside backers.
And that will be the end of the first quarter. With the score, the Dallas Cowboys 7, the Washington Redskins nothing. NBC's Sunday Night Football continues after these messages. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and Andrea Kramer. Sunday Night Football. Dallas trying to clinch a playoff spot. Hunter Smith to punt on 4th down for the Redskins. Patrick Creighton, who ran back 2 punts earlier this season for touchdowns, calls for the fair. The emerging star of the Cowboys on offense has been Miles Austin this year, but he's wondering at the beginning of the season, what would they do without Terrell Owens, at least on the field, not off the field, obviously. And as you can see, there were Owens' season averages over the past 3 years. Austin right now, 65 receptions, over 1,100 yards. And on the ground, they start here with Felix Jones out to the 30-yard line. And Felix Jones, as we mentioned before, is a guy, if you wanted to use an adjective for him, it's explosive.
Sure is, and he got a little help from his friends that time. Watch Doug Free right over here, guy who's filling in for Mark Colombo. Gonna take his guy and just drive him right out of the hole. Doug Free really made an impression on me last week watching him play. Here's a guy that was a backup. He's done everything right for him. Some question physically, would he be tough enough for that position? And boy, has he proven it with this opportunity.
From the 30 now, Romo swings it out to Jones, and Jones can only get back to the line of scrimmage. Rocky McIntosh is the first guy there. Miles Austin is a guy who's been around for a little while. In fact, he came in when Parcells was there, undrafted out of Monmouth University in New Jersey, and he has emerged. And the Cowboys figured, okay, well, Roy Williams would become their #1 guy. They traded for him last year. And then who would emerge? Would it be him? Would it be Creighton? Would it be Sam Hurd? And right now, Miles Austin is not that far away from earning a trip. Well, it used to be Honolulu, and this year it'll be Miami for the Pro Bowl.
He would have my vote for sure.
Second down and 10. Swinging to the outside again. And Jones gets taken down, and that time it's LaRon Landry staying right with him.
You know, Felix Jones is one of those guys that a lot of fans want to see him carry the ball more because he's such an explosive guy and makes so many big plays. But this Dallas team is built around being physical. They have a big offensive line. They have big blocking tight ends, and Marion Barber is their featured guy. Plus, they want Felix Jones around for the playoffs if they should get there. So pretty much, it's about as much as you're going to see out of Felix Jones. They're trying to preserve him just a bit.
3rd and 8 to bring Tashard Choice in on 3rd down. Flanking Romo. He stays in the block, and Romo swings it to the outside, and that is caught by Jason Witten, who leads the team in receptions, but Witten will be stopped short of the first down by Justin Tryon. For Jason Witten, the tight end, that is catch number 83 on the season.
You know, Tony Romo on that play really didn't get his feet set to make the throw, so the ball floated a little bit going out in the flat to Jason Witten, and because of that, the Redskins were able to come up and stop Witten short of the first down.
Matt McBriar, 6th year in the league, from Australia, played college football in Hawaii, dropped at the 16-yard line and fumbled out of bounds by D'Angelo Hall. And that's where the Redskins will begin their next drive early in the second quarter. 7-0 Cowboys. Redskins now begin this drive from the 18-yard line. They swing the pass out to Moss. Newman is right there with him, but he runs away from Terrence Newman. Comes all the way back across the field. Kelly is out there to block to knock Jenkins down, and he takes it all the way out to the 49-yard line to give the crowd something to stand up about as Brady James finally chases him down.
Well, the one guy that Wade Phillips was concerned about on the Washington Redskins more than anybody else was Santana Moss. He said they don't have a lot of big play capability, so as long as we can keep Santana Moss under wraps, we can make this work. But on the other side, Malcolm Kelly, who's getting his chance to start because of the injury to Devin Thomas, had a nice block.
29-yard gain. Now Ganther takes the ball to the 49-yard line. One time Ganther came over from Tennessee earlier this year, been on the Titans practice squad.
Well, inside you've got Jay Ratliff, the nose tackle, is going to have to try and take on that double team. Here's a guy that's not a big guy as far as nose tackles go. As one matter of fact, he used to be a tight end in high school. Came in and started playing defensive end. They moved him to 3 technique, and now he's a nose tackle. He has nowhere else to go. He keeps going farther inside.
2nd down and 6. And it's knocked down, and that was Keith Brooking in his first year as a Cowboy after spending his entire career with the Atlanta Falcons.
And Wade Phillips knew this guy, and they knew what he brought to this organization. He coached him over there. He went to 5 Pro Bowls, but he has become the emotional leader of this team. Said he came in a little bit quiet, earned the respect of his teammates, but now he is borderline out of control out there on the field. This guy has brought an emotional level to the Dallas Cowboys they simply didn't have a year ago.
He plays Zach Thomas. He kind of pulls a Drew Brees in the pregame huddle. 3rd and 6. And a whistle here from John Parry's crew, and a timeout is taken by the Washington Redskins.
Timeout, Washington. The team's
and here was Brooking. I mean, Drew Brees has now made this. Ray Lewis started it, and then it's been taken to new levels by people like Brees. And here's Brooking before the game.
This is all we need. Yeah. This is all we need. Yeah. We're going to keep hitting them. Yeah. We're going to keep hitting them. Yeah. They might get back up. Yeah. We're going to hit them again. Yeah. And when they're barely hanging on. Yeah. What are we going to do? When they're about to call them out. What we going to do? We're going to hit them in the mouth. Yeah. We're going to bloody their nose. Yeah. We're going to knock them to the ground. Yeah. Hold on. I need all of you now. Yeah. I need all of you. Yeah. We're going to step up.
If you took him into an insurance office tomorrow, every guy would sell about 20 policies, right?
He did everything but say, I'm going to get you, Hulk Hogan. But, you know, I hate to say it, but you need that on a football team. Yep. You need somebody who can draw that emotion out. And I really think he's helped the Cowboys.
You need it in an office.
No doubt.
3rd and 6 from the 49-yard line. And that pass is incomplete, and Campbell was backpedaling, and the pressure was put on by Bobby Carpenter, coming right up through the middle against a frustrated Campbell. 4th down.
I tell you, one of the problems you have is when you get a quick nose tackle like Jay Ratliff, he can go from one gap to the other gap so fast it creates blitzing opportunities. That time was Bobby Carpenter taking advantage.
Hunter Smith kicking. Fair catch called for and made by Creighton. Marion Barber is the running back from the 12-yard line on 1st down. Barber exploits a small hole through the middle behind a Leonard Davis block. One of the reasons that Davis winds up from time to time in the Pro Bowl. It's a gain of 6.
Well, I tell you what, there's a good battle going on right in the middle here. You've got Albert Haynesworth and you've got Kyle Kozar and Andre Gerard. Just big guys on big guys, and that time the double team worked out well for the Dallas Cowboys. It has just been really physical inside. Of course, we all know the history with Gerard and Haynesworth. Haynesworth stomping on Gerard's head without a helmet on in that game in Tennessee.
And it's the first time they faced each other since then. Pass to the outside. Austin makes the catch. Gets ridden out by Fred Smoot. 1st down, Dallas.
You know, one of the things that I think Tony Romo does so well is get the ball out of his hands. We've done some comparisons in the past to the great quarterbacks that have ever played the game, like a Dan Marino. But this release is about as quick as you see in the game right now. When he sees it, he can really get that ball out of his hands, and I think he's one of the premier quarterbacks in the league. I really do.
From the 28-yard line on 1st down, Romo throws, and in stride to Witten. And Witten, who has only 1 touchdown this season, looks for his 2nd and can't quite get there, but gets tackled at the 3-yard line by Reed Doughty. 70 yards to his favorite target.
One of the things the Redskins like to do is bring LaRon Landry down in man coverage. There he is, one-on-one against Jason Witten, and that is some route by a tight end. To get a guy that can run like Landry, and you saw Witten just have a little move at the top of that route and sprung him. And for Tony Romo, how accurate is this throw? Right there between the 8 and the 2, perfect.
Longest reception of his career, officially 69 yards, and the ball is at the 3-yard line.
Those two guys, when they get on the same page together, they are tough to stop.
Out of the gun with Barber in the backfield. Inside draw. They love to run that play. Touchdown. Cowboys run more draw plays than any team in the league.
That was terrific by Tony Romo. It really was. He saw the coverage. The Redskins had 2 safeties way away from the line of scrimmage, and Romo read it, checked to the draw, and got the touchdown. He has really come a long way He has more responsibilities at the line of scrimmage this year than he's had at any time in his career.
Sean Sweezum gets booed as he kicks the extra point. 69 yards to Witten, and then Barber makes it pay off for Dallas, trying to clinch a playoff spot. 14-0 Cowboys.
The NFL stars are out shining bright. The Cowboys versus Redskins, a story fight. Sunday Night Football is now.
With a win, the Dallas Cowboys clinch a playoff spot. With a win tonight and a win next week, they would win the NFC East. The Giants, with a Cowboy win, would be eliminated. And right now, with the score 14-0, Rock Cartwright downs it in the end zone. And back we go to the touchdown.
Well, it's just a pretty simple game here. You've got 6 for the Dallas Cowboys against 6 for the Washington Redskins. When Tony Romo saw those 2 safeties off the line of scrimmage, he just checked to the draw because he knew he had his guys manned up on everybody, and there's really no way for the Redskins to stop that one.
Cowboys run about 8 draws per game. Very effective early last week against New Orleans when they came out on fire. Now the Skins down by 2 touchdowns from the 20-yard line. Fake to Ganther, pass to the right side, and that'll be a very short gain as Todd Yoder gets taken down after a gain of 1 by the safety Ken Hamlin.
Well, and let's face it, it has been a struggle this year for the Washington Redskins to try and find offense. You know, you just can't take guys like Chris Samuels and Randy Thomas and Chris Cooley and Clinton Portis all off the field at the same time, and you look at the flip side and the number of players the Dallas Cowboys have on injury reserve, almost non-existent, that list. They have stayed very, very healthy.
2nd down and 8. Pass to Moss. He slips Newman and then gets taken down by Ware. It'll be 3rd and 4. Let's go to Andrea.
Hey guys, you know, the right guard position for the Redskins has been jinxed. Mike Williams, who's the 6th right guard they've used this season, is on the sidelines right now with a right toe injury. They're calling it questionable. Will Montgomery's in there for him, and he has started 3 games for them earlier this season.
So again, that mess along the offensive front, and the running backs, we've detailed what's gone on there. Pretty much the story of their season on that side of the ball. Montgomery, 7th round, the last round of the draft in 06. 3rd down and 4. Fake toss, and that doesn't fool the Dallas Cowboys because Jason Hatcher is right there. Rock Cartwright gets stopped. Crowd starts to boo. 4th down.
Well, Jason Hatcher is going to tell Will Montgomery, welcome to the NFL right here. It's what happens when you have your 7th guy of the season playing right guard. I think I might have run it somewhere else.
And it's a short kick off the foot of Hunter Smith, who's been bothered by a sore groin, and he looks like it on that punt. And it gets down at the 38-yard line. 14-0 Cowboys. Chris talked about how healthy the Cowboys have been, and look at that. Only 2 opening day starters have missed more than a game this season. Mark Colombo might come back next week at right tackle, and Freeze done a real good job in his stead, and Ken Hamlin missed some action, and that's been it. 1st and 10 from the 39-yard line as the Cowboys begin this drive, and Romo is under pressure, and then he dumps it off, and Barber can't make the catch. As Romo got enveloped, it'll be 2nd down and 10. Wade Phillips, 3rd year as the Cowboys head coach.
Well, they're doing their best to bring some pressure here now on Tony Romo. They finally do get it, and then all of a sudden it's one of those read blitzes, and Marion Barber popped out late. The linebacker there thought that he was just going to force him to block him, but Barber was smart enough to realize what he was doing, sort of slowly coming in on the blitz, popped out, and if he had caught that one, there was nobody around.
Felix Jones is the back here. Here goes Jones, gets a good block, but then that hole closes quickly because London Fletcher, the middle linebacker, comes right in there to stuff him.
Well, London Fletcher really is something, isn't he? Here's a guy that has never been to the Pro Bowl and yet I think plays as hard as any player in the National Football League. Right here. Flozell was going to try and get a piece of him, but it wasn't enough. You see him running as hard sideline to sideline, making plays. And there's the kind of guy you want to build your franchise around. You know, I think that, you know, Albert Haynesworth's a great player and all that. But anytime you're going to spend that kind of money, he better have all the intangibles as well. And a guy like London Fletcher has all those.
3rd and 8. And Romo gets spun around. They've got a hand on his shirt, and he still is able to make the play. And Austin says, first down. LaRon Landry makes the tackle. Brian Arakpo almost had the sack. 17-yard gain.
Arakpo's got to be thinking, what do I have to do to get Tony Romo on the ground? He missed a sack at the end of the last game that cost him the game. And here he is again. He said, you know, the last time I played him, he goes, I'm telling you, I had him dead to rights. There's no way he saw me coming. And at the last minute, he spun out of there, and he just did it again to him.
4.5. Wildcat. Tashard Choice is the back here as they run the Wildcat for the first time tonight. And then they'll flip it to Austin. He winds up with it. And Austin runs all the way back to Central Virginia before he gets taken down. So that didn't work as Chris Wilson, the backup linebacker on the outside, turns that into a 14-yard loss. And Wade Phillips says, let's get that out of the playbook.
Yeah, he should have flipped that one back. Nice job that time by Chris Wilson on the outside, staying home. He has contained backside no matter what. He saw that one coming the whole way and disrupted the play. But that's the typical spot where you're going to see some of those gadget plays. Right around midfield, and for Jason Garrett, he's taken a little hit over the years as the offensive coordinator. He'll hear about that one.
Cowboys call it the Razorback. There was Garrett on the sideline. 2nd down and 23 now. And Romo throws, and that is tipped high in the air and picked off at the 30-yard line. Intercepted by Reed Doughty, and Doughty brings it back to the 46-yard line on a pass intended for Roy Williams that gets batted up in the air.
Well, Roy Williams had a chance on a ball last week against the Saints that could have clinched that one. Probably had a little bit of a chance on that one as well.
He's hurt, and it's his first career interception.
Roy Williams running that corner stop route, and it was Carlos Rogers who came in and made a great play on the ball.
They work on Doughty. Redskins have the ball. And there is Doughty, who gets his first career interception, then takes a vicious shot at the end and needs assistance back to the locker room.
You know, Miles Austin got him from behind, and he just got that right leg pinned underneath him. And
Doug Free comes across the top of him. 313 pounds. So the Redskins right now trying to stay alive, down by 14, 3:28 left in the half, and Campbell is pressured, and nope, and then the ball comes out as he's going down, and the Dallas Cowboys wind up with it. Marcus Spears makes the recovery. So Campbell, the play fake, was he down is the question. Anthony Spencer and Igor Olshansky converge on him to create the fumble. Was he down, though, is the question.
And the other question is, what is Jason Campbell doing?
Yeah.
That's a three-step drop. You either throw it. Yeah, his knee's on the ground, looks like, so they're going to give the Redskins the ball back. But those are the kind of mistakes that Jason Campbell tends to make. He wants to hold the ball. He wants to make a perfect play. And sometimes when it's not there, you have to
Washington has challenged the previous play, down by contact versus a fumble. We'll review the play.
And they should win this challenge. So John Parry will take a look at it. And the Redskins figure to keep the ball. Well, this is a pretty easy one here. I mean, there's nothing that we see that's going to not get this reversed, because Campbell's knee is clearly down before Spencer extracts the football. There it is. Here comes Spencer over the top. Olshansky on the bottom. They'll probably each get credit for a half sack, but Washington will wind up with the football on a 2nd down and 25.
It's just one of those plays for Jason Campbell that you can't do in the NFL. He has a 3-step drop. They try and go with a little slant and go. And when it's not there, you have to throw the football away.
The right knee was down prior to the fumble. 3-4. The ball will be returned to Washington. Second down, 32-yard line. Left hash. Washington is not charged with the timeout.
And there goes Dowdy back to the Redskins locker room. Going in for x-rays right now on his right ankle. So officially it'll be a 13-yard sack. That's going to make it second down and 23. After looking at the replay, John Parry spots the ball at the 32-yard line. And the clock running. Took him down to 3 minutes. Cartwright is the back. And the pass is caught by Santana Moss. And that'll make it third down and long. It'll make it 3rd and 11 as we go back to the play in which Campbell got sacked.
You see the front side. This was supposed to be a slant and go route. And Jason Campbell pump fake there, but Terrence Newman saw it coming all the way. So really Jason Campbell now at this point got to throw that football away. Instead he tries to come backside, but there's nothing backside. There is no route backside. It's all or nothing on that one play to Santana Moss.
3rd and 15. And that's a screen that everybody in the state of Texas figured out was coming.
I tell you, DeMarcus Ware was so good a week ago after that neck injury. Watch him come all the way across the field here to run down this screen. This is a guy that barely got recruited out of high school. He was 6 foot, 200 pounds, ran a 4.7. Nobody thought anything about him. He got to college, he got up to 250 pounds and ran a 4.4, and his life changed.
And Washington's going to let this run down to the 2-minute warning before they punt. 2 minutes to the half. The Dallas Cowboys leading the Washington Redskins 14-0. Hunter Smith to Creighton. Creighton gets taken down at the 18-yard line. The only thing that would be in question would be Philadelphia and Dallas and where they are positioned. You know, we were talking about London Fletcher, 12 years in the league, almost never comes out of a game. If you take a look at what he did with 150 consecutive starts, second longest among current players, he missed over those 2 years 1 snap. So Chris and I were talking to him before the game and we said, what snap did you miss? And he had to think about it, and he said, I know what it was. We tried a field goal against the Giants last year, and it was going to be the end of the half. But then there was 1 second left on the other side, and I had to go back in for some repairs, so I missed that 1 snap.
Right.
From the 18-yard line, the Dallas Cowboys, with Romo having time, hitting Barber, and Barber will get tripped up by Hall. Cowboys have all of their timeouts remaining.
Well, and certainly the Dallas Cowboys made a couple of mistakes at the end of that last drive to sort of give the Redskins a chance. Got them on the reverse, through the interception. So this is a Washington offense that's been struggling. Don't want to make the big mistake down here.
Second down and 3, and Romo will dump this one off to Barber. That interception by Romo was the first in 168 attempts. They get a first down here, and Dallas will spend timeout number 1.
Yeah. And for Tony Romo, this has been a year that he thinks he's starting to figure some things out. You know, his interception totals are way down. He thought the first Giants game in which he threw 3 interceptions was a big turning point for him in the season. He said, I realized at that moment, I can't do this anymore. I have to be smarter with the football, and he's only had 4 since then.
Smart guy in a lot of ways. We talked to him last night. I said, what's the best Christmas gift you got? He said, a Kindle. Voracious reader. A lot of fun. He's a good guy. He's just a good guy to joke with and visit with. And of course, when you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, well, playing center field for the Yankees.
Doesn't get
Center
a whole
for the
lot better.
Celtics.
Yeah.
No, but you name it. 1st and 10, and that's dropped by Miles Austin. I always thought if you had to pick the positions in each of the sports, center field for the Yankees would be one. You know, center for the Boston Celtics going back to Bill Russell, and maybe goalie for the Montreal Canadiens, and quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I appreciate about him is he's had some highs and lows. Now, he takes his fair share of abuse in the media in Dallas on occasion, but you never know if he had won or lost based on when you have a conversation with him, and I think that's what a quarterback in the Cowboys has to be.
2nd and 10. And that is caught by Witten, who had that 69-yard reception earlier. Kareem Moore makes the tackle. The clock goes down to under a minute, and they move the chains.
Well, one of the things they do sometimes is take Albert Hainsworth outside, and it was one of the frustrations that he had in talking about this offense.
And Romo throws over the middle again, and this is Witten. And Witten is into Washington territory. And that will stop the clock with 42 seconds on a timeout. Fletcher makes the stop. Cowboys, you wonder if the first half will end with a Sean Sweezum field goal attempt. There he is. One-time Cowboy, came to Washington, and you know, Nick Folk had done such a good job over the past couple of years, and then all of a sudden he couldn't make anything, and missed an easy one last week against New Orleans. And whether it's a confidence thing or whatever, and then Sweezum as a Redskin, he only missed 3 field goals this year, but they were big. 2 of them against the Cowboys, 39 and 50 yards in a game that wound up 7-6 Dallas. And then the other one would have given him a victory, a shocking win over New Orleans. He missed that, and the Saints stayed unbeaten that day by winning in overtime. 2nd and 1. Dallas down to 1 timeout, and the pass is dropped by Williams. And that is not quite man bites dog news.
Well, for Roy Williams, he was supposed to be the man. He was supposed to be the guy that took over for Terrell Owens. I'm going to guess he looks away here. Yeah, a little bit. I wonder if he ever saw that ball at all. And sometimes when you're having some struggles, and he dropped the big ball last week, you have to get back to the fundamentals of looking that thing all the way in.
He leads the NFL with 10 on-target drops. It's a category you don't want to lead in. They get the first down here, Miles Austin. Now to 31 seconds, and Dallas will spend its last timeout.
You know, Miles Austin is a guy that obviously has just simply been incredible this season. And he was undrafted coming out of college, and nobody seemed to want him. But when he went undrafted, then there were a few teams trying to get him, trying to come after him, and trying to sign him. And Bill Parcells was the guy then. And he went up to him and he said, listen, I'm a Jersey guy. You're a Jersey guy. I promise you, I'm going to play you on special teams, and I'm going to give you a legitimate shot to play wide receiver. And the whole Jersey guy to Jersey guy was enough to sell Miles Austin on coming to the Cowboys.
He and Romo both undrafted. And look at him now as the song goes. 1st and 10. I don't know what song it is, but it sounds. Romo throwing underneath. Barber needs to get out of bounds. He's looking for that sideline and can't get there. And that's going to waste some valuable time. And now Romo's going to have to get up there and spike it and then try to get him into field goal position. They're not there quite yet. Romo at the 36-yard line. He'll spike it there with 10 seconds. Now you'd be looking at, if they want to bring Sweezum in, about a 54-yard attempt.
And I think Tony's a little frustrated with himself there because he left one in the middle of the field that allowed that clock to tick down. Now you're kind of out of options. Now you'll see the Redskins defensively really protecting the boundary here and making sure they don't catch one and jump out of bounds.
Well, that's the only way they can pretty much stop the clock here. They're not going to have time. And it's also 3rd down. 3rd and 6. And Romo will throw it into the middle of the field, and the clock is going to run out. It's going to be a first down. It is Austin, but there's nothing they can do. The only thing they could have done is get out of bounds.
And that's where that ball should have been, out of bounds.
Absolutely. And the Dallas Cowboys on the verge of clinching a playoff berth. That is something they will do with a win. They'll eliminate the Giants in the process. And with a win, the field will be set for the NFC playoffs. The only thing that will be determined in the Dallas-Philadelphia game next week is who wins the NFC East, and thus which team would host a game in the playoffs. Philadelphia still with a chance to wind up actually with a number 2 seed. They could get a bye. Kickoff, a short one, fielded by Kevin Ogletree. And Ogletree brings it back out to the 41-yard line. Dallas has it there, and we go to Andrea Kramer. Andrea.
Well, I asked Jim Zorn, how do you get your offense in rhythm? He said, we're struggling in our pass protection. Jason Campbell has to get the ball out more. He said they're also struggling with Jason Witten, 4 for 98. He said they have to cover him inside and out. Wade Phillips said they're taking advantage of the Redskins covering Witten man to man. And what does Wade tell his team at halftime? You're 30 minutes from the playoffs.
30 minutes from the playoffs, and he'll have another good speech for him next week as well. Before the Philadelphia game. First down from the 41-yard line. Here's Barber. And Marion with some tough running. Picks up about 4 yards. Barber tonight has only carried the ball 5 times for a total of 19 yards. As we look at the numbers, Dallas with 179 yards. Of course, 69 of those on that one pass play to Witten.
Yeah, and the other one off the turnover early on. That's how Dallas got their first touchdown of the night. So for Wade Phillips, his team is following up their best performance of the year against the Saints with a solid performance here. And I think that to some extent they realize the offensive issues of the Redskins, and they're going about this pretty methodically.
2nd and 6 from the 44-yard line. And that is caught for a first down. Romo throwing it to Miles Austin. Good night for Austin tonight. Miles has now caught 6 passes for 62 yards.
Well, you can just tell the difference when Albert Haynesworth is fresh. He comes out here to start the second half, and when he feels good, he is awfully tough to block in one-on-one situations. Kyle Kozar, a good player, but that's what Haynesworth brings. He is going to draw the double teams and set up those other pass rushers.
1st and 10, the ball is at the 44-yard line. Whistle ends the play because of a false start.
False start, number 82. Offense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Jason Witten.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of times the fans, and we've talked about it a little bit, but Felix Jones is sort of the favorite guy because he's so dramatic and he's so exciting. And sometimes they come out of games and they say, well, why didn't Felix Jones run the ball in here just a couple of times? The Cowboys go to the line of scrimmage with a run-pass option almost every down. So sometimes if the Redskins or whoever comes out in a defensive set that Romo doesn't like, he simply checks run-pass, and sometimes the running back doesn't get his opportunities.
On the 1st and 15, that pass is caught. There is Felix Jones. And Felix Jones gets about 14 of those 15 before he's tackled by Kareem Moore.
Nice job by all 3 offensive linemen getting out. They sort of take the defensive tackle here, sling him to the ground, and that's what created the opportunity. That allowed all 3 offensive linemen to get out in front of the screen pass here, and that's pretty good. Dallas's offensive linemen aren't exactly the small mobile type. When those big guys get running downhill, they're a little scary.
Wildcat or Razorback, your choice. Tashard Choice will take the snap. And Tashard Choice will get in behind big Leonard Davis, but H.B. Blaze, who's in for the moment, replacing Rocky McIntosh, who needs some attention on the sideline, makes the stop. It'll be 3rd down and 1.
Well, they go unbalanced here with the Wildcat. They take the right tackle and Doug Free and move him over to the left side and try and create some numbers. There's a guy getting a chance. H.B. Blades, probably their best special teams player, coming up, and figuring this one out pretty well. Did a good job of avoiding Leonard Davis, which is always a good idea.
Tough to avoid Leonard Davis. 6'6" and 353. 3rd and 1. Here's Barber. And Barber's going to get plugged at the line of scrimmage at the 35-yard line. He's going to be short of the first down. It'll be 4th and inches. Gerard is down on the grass right now. And
big guy Albert Hainsworth is going to take a hard path down inside. And he just sort of takes Kozar and moves him back into the backfield and shuts that one down.
Gerard stayed down for a while. He's just getting a little bit of a rest. Waiting for a minute to get up off of him. 4th and inches. Barber again, and Barber is not going to make it. So the Redskins, with Hainsworth right there in the middle of the action, stop him. And it's a first down for the Redskins.
Good call, Al. Exact same thing.
Washington still with life. Cowboys Children's Medical Center in Dallas last week, bringing gifts. Spreading cheer. Great sight.
Beautiful little girl that is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Washington after that stand. And here is Ganther. And Ganther takes the ball up to the 36-yard line. Ganther, an interesting story. He has been with Tennessee for the last 4 years, gets released and re-signed and practice squad and hasn't played very much. He winds up here because of all of the injuries, but a kid who grew up in a rough neighborhood in Northern California and then was recruited to Utah by Urban Meyer when he was there. And that's where he played his college ball. 2nd and 9. And the pass is a little behind Moss. And of course, mentioning Urban Meyer brings us to Urban Meyer announcing that he was stepping away. And now the question is for how long, and brings Mike Shanahan into the discussion as well. So there's 6 degrees of separation here as you look at Dan Snyder, the owner of the Washington Redskins, who has brought in Bruce Allen. And the next question is who coaches the team next year?
Yeah, and first and foremost, I'd like to say to Urban Meyer, we hope you're feeling better and doing fine. What a remarkable job he's done at the University of Florida. And which job he has next is of the least of my concern for him.
3rd and 2. Pressure on Campbell. He gets it away, and that is caught by Malcolm Kelly. And that's a first down as he takes the ball into Cowboy territory to the 48-yard line. Scandrick makes the tackle.
Nice job. They say Malcolm Kelly may well have the best hands on the team. He's going to come across the middle of the field. Here's a guy that if he has an issue, it's more route running. It's more the ability to separate and get away from defenders at the top of those routes. A tall guy sometimes has trouble coming out of those, but they say as far as his pure hands, probably the best on the team.
6'4" and 227 is Kelly. And here's Cartwright as he breaks away from a brooking tackle, and that will be a first down. Redskins on the move. Get the ball to the 36-yard line. Brady James makes the stop.
Well, and the difference right now is we're seeing the Redskins providing Jason Campbell some protection. Up front in the first half, it was just a mismatch, but here Jason had plenty of room to step up, and he found, without question, the best receiving running back on the Redskins in Rock Cartwright.
From the 36 on first down. Cartwright. Campbell, we showed you before the graphic illustrating how short most of his throws are, and look at that tonight. Only one pass more than 10 yards from the line of scrimmage.
You know, but they have to do it that way. They can't protect it. They can't throw those 7-step drops. They can't throw those double move kind of plays. They don't have that kind of time, especially against a team like the Cowboys.
Makes it easier for the Cowboys to play defense as well. And that's too high and nearly picked off on the deflection. And for Kelly, 3rd down.
Boy, that's rough. Everything's set up. You've got a wide open receiver. You've got pretty good protection on the play, and have a good drive going that could possibly get you back in the football game, and just missed that one high. Terrence Newman, one of those guys that has missed 9 games the last 2 years because of injuries. He's stayed healthy this year, and a big reason why the Cowboys have been so much better defensively.
And the interception on the first series of the game tonight would set up a Dallas touchdown. 3rd and 8, and Campbell gets whacked as his arm is coming forward, and that's Orlando Scandrick coming in on a corner blitz. And 2 Redskins are down. You got Campbell down, and you have Hire down as well, the tackle.
They come right off the edge over here. And for Jason Campbell, sometimes you have to be able to see that. There was a safety walking over to pick up that coverage, and pre-snap, sometimes you have to be able to diagnose what's going on around you, and he just missed that one.
The Cowboys send a defensive back less often than any team in the league. Washington wasn't ready for it. Well, Stephon Hire was able to get up and with some assistance was able to walk off the field after Scandrick came in and knocked Campbell down and created the sack and sets up a 4th down and 17. And Hunter Smith will send this one down to the 11-yard line where Patrick Creighton makes the fair catch. 7 minutes left, 3rd quarter. 14-0, Dallas Cowboys. And here's a flag as Felix Jones takes it up to the 15-yard line.
Offense, half the distance, 1st down.
Teams that control their fate in the AFC to get into the playoffs would be Baltimore. They're playing at Oakland, and the Jets. Everybody else needs help.
Well, the New York Jets are getting a lot of help, aren't they? Today, Indianapolis sort of allowed them to run away with it in the second half, taking Peyton Manning out of the ball game.
Good way to put it. 1st and 15 for the Dallas Cowboys at their own 6-yard line. Romo pressured, and coming back is Bennett. Number 2 tight end, Martellus Bennett. The pass incomplete. 2nd down.
Well, we've been watching him all night long, but Albert Hainsworth again inside here has really been a handful tonight for Kyle Kozar. That time he gets him on the ground.
Hainsworth, the big offseason free agent acquisition from Tennessee. 2nd and 16. And the screen, Jones out past the 10. Stop short of the 1st down by 6. It'll be 3rd down.
I like that play design there by the Dallas Cowboys. You end up going 3 wide receivers to one side and then the screen back the other. Everybody on the defense, when they see trips to one side of the field, they're all thinking that way, and Cowboys picked up at least half of it there. Jason Garrett with a good call.
3rd and 6. Good clean pocket for him. And a 1st down to Witten, tackled by H.B. Blades, and Dallas has it out at its own 31-yard line.
Well, that time the Washington Redskins had 6 yards of turf to defend, and check out how deep their safeties are in here. You know they're going to try and work this intermediate area to some extent, 5 guys down. And that time just too easy for Jason Witten.
Romo saying last night he's throwing the ball better than he ever has. Tonight 19 to 27 for 235, and Witten is now over 100 yards, 5 catches for 113. They run the inside draw to Felix Jones to the 37-yard line. Gain of 6.
You know, the Washington Redskins really backing out almost in a, it looks kind of like a prevent defense to me. London Fletcher was probably 10 yards off the ball there, and so Tony Romo said, okay, I'll take that draw for 8. I think the plan against the Cowboys is they're willing to give them some runs, just can't give up the big passes. This is a team that's been burned by some double moves lately.
2nd down and 4 from the 38-yard line. And Romo with that shoulder shake, and then the pass is incomplete over the middle, intended for Jason Witten. It'll be 3rd down. Wade Phillips. You know, you're the coach of the Cowboys, you're always on the hot seat. And it's true with Wade, there's no question. It's well noted, well chronicled. Cowboys haven't won a playoff game since the 1996 season. Long, long time. Speculation, of course, is that, well, not only does Wade have to get to the playoffs, he has to win a playoff game. Who knows?
I would say that's right.
3rd and 4. And that'll be a 1st down as they move the chains again on a pass to Austin. Jerry Jones yesterday talking about Wade Phillips.
When I look at our team and I look where our needs are and where our input needs to be, I like Wade Phillips' skills there. There's nothing in me right now that wants to make a coaching change, that thinks we need to make a coaching change. I want that feeling ratified by some success, and we're at the cusp maybe of being able to have it.
That is such a great way to put it. I want that feeling ratified by some success.
You know, it's
I love that.
Oh, Jerry's a beauty anyway. But, you know, Wade Phillips, let's say this. He's only had one losing season, but he's only had one division title, too. And he's the winningest coach that hasn't won a playoff game. So I don't know how to classify him. Maybe upper middle class. You know, I don't know. You can't put him in with the elite guys, but he's certainly been better than average.
27th percentile. 2nd and 6. Barber would have had more, but he falls down at the 39-yard line.
Well, I get, look at this, Al. Way back here, and your middle linebacker is going to run out, and they're going to run a draw. So, you know, I don't know. I guess you're going to give them some runs and try and play against the pass. And you lost Reed Dowdy, one of your safeties. Kareem Moore is in there. But right now, I guess the clock starts working against you a little bit if you're the Redskins.
Definitely. Take what they give you. A little over 2 to play in the quarter. This drive began back at the 12-yard line. And Romo flips it to the outside, and that'll be caught by Miles Austin, about 2 yards short of a 1st down. And Miles Austin tonight has made 8 catches for 76 yards.
And D'Angelo's Hall's got to say, and you got to be kidding me. I have this guy blanketed. But watch the way Austin comes back to the football. Those little things right there have just made such a huge difference for him. I'm just blown away by a guy that really didn't get his start until week 5 against Kansas City and had the awesome game there. But he has gone on to really carry this offense in many ways.
2nd and a deuce from the 31. And this pass is caught by Sam Hurd and then dropped by Sam Hurd. Had it, lost it.
You know, and if you're Tony Romo, you want to spread the football. You want to get all your receivers involved. But who is it that's consistently making plays game after game in key situations? It's Jason Witten and it's Miles Austin. And more as you watch the tape on the Cowboys, when the situation gets big, those are the 2 guys that he's throwing it to.
Get on the line, Flo. Get on the line.
3rd and 2. Austin left. Creighton and Williams to the right. And run that draw again. And Barber this time trying to lean for a 1st down, and it's close. Looks to be just a little short of the first down, and John Parry will bring in the chain gang.
Pretty interesting decision here, wouldn't you think? I mean,
go
certainly with the way that their field goal kicking has been lately, the temptation would be to go for it here, but you may want to see what Sweezum has to offer coming back to Washington.
I'd rather see what he has to offer on an extra point. I would go for it right here. Well, I mean, why give? I mean, if you miss a 38-yard field goal or a 48-yard field goal, give him the ball at the 38-yard line, I'd go for it.
Yeah, and you've got one of the biggest offensive lines in captivity. You're right on the money.
Yep.
See if they come back to that unbalanced line again. They've been moving Doug Free over to the left side to try and create a bit of a mismatch. Nope, stay regular this time.
Minutes ago in the quarter, 4th and inches. Running back is Barber. Here's Marion, and again he does not make it. Like I said, I would have kicked the field goal. Second time Washington has stopped them on the 4th and short to stay in the game, at least for the moment. 56 left in the third, 14-0 Dallas. Beautiful night in our nation's capital. We're in Landover, just outside the district limits, as the pass is caught by Moss, and Moss takes it up to the 48-yard line. Santana Moss spinning away from Terrence Newman.
Well, this has been almost the full extent of the offensive effort for the Redskins. Get the ball out to Santana Moss and let him make a play. Terrence Newman here just going to miss the tackle, and you know they have been bound and determined. Moss is a guy that over the years has really lit up the Dallas Cowboys on some big plays, and they've done everything they could to get him involved in this one.
Stop at the 49-yard line, and that will take us to the 4th quarter through 3. Just outside D.C., it's the Dallas Cowboys 14 and the Washington Redskins nothing. And NBC's Sunday Night Football resumes after these messages from your local station. First down, or second down and 8 from the 49-yard line for the Redskins, down by 2 touchdowns. Short drop, Campbell under pressure again. Pass incomplete. James covering on the play. Davis the intended receiver.
We talked about Jason Campbell, but I think it's important to go back and point out some of the mistakes he's made. Watch Gerald Sensabaugh right here. As he starts to come down here, you've got to know as a quarterback that blitz is coming. You could see Jason Campbell looking right. He looked back left, and he just missed the read. That's a really easy read to make when that safety walks over. You've got to know at that point the corner's coming, and he completely missed it.
3rd and 8. Campbell backing up, just fires it into the bench because DeMarcus Ware got in there.
And is that intentional grounding? That's going to be up. There comes the flag.
Yep. In the pocket, in the tackle box, in effect.
In the pocket, under pressure. And really that time as Jason Campbell backs out of it.
Intentional grounding. Number 17, offense. Quarterback was in the pocket, threw to an area where there was no eligible receiver. That penalty includes a loss of down. 4th down, 10-yard penalty.
Yeah, you've got to be outside the tackle box, but watch what Jason Campbell does here. Levi Jones is really doing a nice job blocking, but because Jason Campbell backed up outside of where the pocket was, there's no way that Levi Jones could have known where Jason Campbell was, and he really created the pressure on himself.
Smith's kick fielded at the 25-yard line, and this is Creighton bringing it back to the 27. early fourth quarter. Cowboys up 14-zip. Looking at Newman on the Cowboys bench. Terrence Newman trying to walk it off as their offense now is on the field at the 27-yard line. First down for the Cowboys. Early fourth quarter, 14-0 Dallas. And Jones gets planted by LaRon Landry. Jerry Gray is one of the Washington Redskins assistant coaches, coaches the secondary, was the defensive coordinator at Buffalo earlier in this decade, been around for a while, and a lot of speculation that he has already interviewed, oddly enough, for the head coaching job here next year. And the Redskins have had to address that, and there's Dan Snyder with Bruce Allen, and they have been somewhat evasive about it. All Jerry will basically say is that he and Jim Zorn have talked about it. Second down and 6. And here is Jones again. But when it comes to removing the evasiveness, who better to go to than Andrea Kramer? Andrea, what do you know about this?
And I'm happy to remove the evasiveness because Jerry Gray did interview. Now, a few weeks ago, Dan Snyder called Roger Goodell to ask if interviewing Jerry Gray for the head coaching job and Morocco Brown, the Redskins personnel director, for the GM job would comply with the Rooney Rule. Well, Goodell then called John Wooten, who's the chairman of the Fritz Pollard Alliance, which promotes minority hiring in the NFL. Wooten spoke to both Gray and Brown, confirmed their interviews with Snyder were legitimate, and told Goodell, yes, the Redskins did comply with the Rooney Rule.
Good reporting. Jason Witten makes the catch. And that'll set up the first down. And, of course, a lot of this has to do clearly with the fact the Redskins are going to make a change. It's 98.7%. Mike Shanahan is going to be the #1 candidate. Little doubt about that. But if they can't get Mike for whatever reason, you got to look elsewhere.
Yeah, you do. And I'll tell you, that Rooney Rule has been a good rule, though. It's created some opportunities for people and created lists of guys that are qualified that it probably wouldn't have happened otherwise.
No doubt. Romo flips it to Barber. Barber juggles, retrieves, and has a first down, tackled by H.B. Blades. You know what's really crazy, Chris? Of all the things in this playoff scenario, the Cowboys tonight would clinch a playoff spot. If they win next week, as Barber goes off slowly and will put his shoe back on, they win next week, they win the East. If the Minnesota Vikings lose tomorrow night at Chicago and lose to the Giants next week, and Dallas wins next week, Dallas gets a bye. They would be the #2 seed. And here's Jones to the 38-yard line. Philadelphia also has a chance to wind up as the 2 seed if they win and Minnesota loses one of its games. So that's still available.
Just watch this big guy here, Leonard Davis, on this play, working against Cornelius Griffin. Hey, that is a lot of man moving forward. And he does that a lot.
Leonard.
He and Andre Gerard side by side create about a 720-pound wall that most defenders would like to avoid.
And here is Felix Jones. One other thing that Dallas would need to get that bye, just to go back to that, Arizona would have to lose next week. So you got a million things going on, but right now Wade Phillips knows one thing. He knows if they win this game, they're in the playoffs. And there it is. Green Bay clinching a playoff spot today. Dallas would clinch tonight. You'd have your 6 teams. And then it would all depend because nobody has really clinched the spot. The spot. I mean, even New Orleans still could lose the #1 spot. Got beat today in overtime by Tampa Bay. Romo throwing, and that pass is incomplete. Intended for Ogletree, and LaRon Landry came in that time on a safety blitz. And Romo hits the deck. Third down.
Every time I start working my way through those playoff scenarios, I'm reminded of calculus class. It is, sometimes these things get so convoluted and there's so many possibilities and different things. Every time you talk to a coach or a player, they do what I do. We just have to win, you know? And I think for the Dallas Cowboys, they have just won. The last 2 weeks, they have played great clutch football and gotten done what they haven't in the prior Decembers.
I'm reminded of Professor Irwin Corey. 3rd and 6. And Romo throws, and that is caught. And a flag is down, and that's Tashard Choice, who gets whacked by Carlos Rogers. And John Parry will give us
prior to the pass, holding. Number 22, 5-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Holding Roy Williams. Well, Choice just now getting up. Injury timeout. Shot of the Capitol. Washington. Redskins down 14-0. Go back and look at the Carlos Rogers hold after the play. It's a 1st and 10 now for the Dallas Cowboys at the 29-yard line. And Romo fires incomplete over the middle.
Well, this is one of those 3rd down plays that looked like it went the Redskins' way, but because of this hold right here by Carlos Rogers, and it's a no-brainer. Cowboys got another 1st down and continue to move on. And you do have to feel a little bit for this Redskins defense. They've tried to hang in there, as have the fans. They've been very loyal here in Washington, but this offense at times is borderline unwatchable.
2nd and 10. Austin to the 14. You know, when we go to a town and you walk around and you see all the jerseys. You know what I saw walking around today? Alex Ovechkin's jersey.
I tell you, I would probably buy a Miles Austin jersey. This guy can play the game, and you know he's built like a running back. You know, when they talk about him, catching the ball is just the beginning. You better hit him hard to get him on the ground. Breaks so many tackles, makes so many plays, and I know Tony Romo is probably the MVP, but he would be a close second.
From the 14-yard line. And the pass is incomplete. I'm not saying this is a hockey town, but the Washington Capitals now have the most points in the National Hockey League. And as you know, Chris, we go to towns, and I'm looking at all the Ovechkin jerseys and not many Redskin jerseys. So I think people right now in this town would rather talk about Ovechkin than kvetch about the Redskins.
Do you believe in miracles? They do. They wouldn't be here looking like that unless they believed in miracles, so let's hang in there.
They were in tuxes for the Capitals-Devils game last night. 2nd and 10 at the 14. Barber over right guard, bouncing his way close to a 1st down.
Well, if there's one play you have to stop when you play against the Cowboys, it's this one right here. The old power play with Kozar coming around, leading away, kicked out LaRon Landry that time. And now it is just becoming one of those grinded out affairs against a defense that has simply been asked to do too much tonight.
3rd and 1. And Barber, and again, Dallas has had one small problem tonight. It's been converting on 3rd and 4th and short, and now they've got another 4th down coming up, and this time they're going to send Sweezum in to make it a 3-possession game.
Yeah, absolutely the right call here, and really Marion Barber with a little hesitation on that one, or else he might have had it. Not a bad idea to get your field goal kicker broken in with a few kicks before he has to make one of those kind of kicks.
Especially in a game like this, you want to make it a 3-possession affair, which he will. Tony Romo will do the holding. which took over from Matt McBriar a couple of weeks ago. It's a 23-yard attempt. And the kick is good. Halfway through the fourth quarter now, 17-0 Cowboys. 17-0, the Dallas Cowboys on their way to postseason. And all 6 teams will be set in the NFC, but not a single team will be locked into a seed after tonight.
And that New Orleans victory seems to have settled this team down in December, and who knows from here where they go.
Yep. Wheeler's kick is a beauty. That's why they drafted him. Well, last week we had that Minnesota-Carolina game with Favre and Childress, and a little different angle coming your way when we come back. All lined up, the Capitol, the Washington Monument, Lincoln Memorial. Speaking of icons, sort of.
Here comes Brett Favre.
Here comes Brett Favre. Well, this happened last week, and you all saw what happened in terms of the fallout from that. Looked like any number of conversations that you would have seen coach and quarterback on the sideline, and then you know what happened afterward, and we have some other angles of it as well. And you're looking at it right now as what was going on there is that Brad Childress wanted to take Brett out of the game, and Brett didn't want to come out of the game, and that created a firestorm. Everything creates a firestorm these days, but that certainly created a firestorm this week.
But really, the firestorm came because Brett Favre made a comment about it.
Right.
Because you couldn't have taken from that the kind of controversy that was created from that.
Exactly. We would have been out of our minds to speculate and seeing that last week, what was going on there. Of course, as they go to no huddle right here, Campbell, after hitting Randall L for a first down, comes up and throw the ball to the outside, and that'll be caught, and Kelly will work his way out of bounds to stop the clock. So everybody is weighed in, of course, if you watched all the shows today, and most people weigh in and say, hey, look, it's the coach's team. Coach has to make those calls. What do you think?
For the most part, I agree with that. But I also know, you brought in Brett Favre. You basically had to beg him off the farm down in Mississippi. And here's a guy that is, without question, one of the most competitive people in the NFL. It was a 7-6 game they were leading. I agree with him. I wouldn't have wanted to come out of that ball game. I think it was important for him to get his offense rolling. They weren't being very effective. Yeah, they were having protection problems. But the idea of coming out of a competitive football game is a little repulsive to Brett Favre, and I understand that.
It's a first down to Randall L. They swing this one to the outside, and that's Cartwright, and he'll get taken down. I just thought it was odd. The odd thing to me is that it's a 7-6 game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, hey, I want to take you out to protect you, even though Childress said he was getting hammered.
I mean, the guy's played 285 in a row or whatever. Right. I mean, he does a pretty good job of taking care of himself out there.
2nd and 11. So do you think, Chris, that this has any effect tomorrow night? They play tomorrow night or going forward?
I don't. And I'll tell you why, because I've been in those conversations before. I've seen the yelling and the screaming. And the only thing about it is, Brett Favre has been the magic man for the Minnesota Vikings. And he has really turned the whole franchise around and given them hope. And, the last thing in the world you want to see now is sort of any tearing down.
For intentional grounding is number 31. Number 31 was in the area. Quarterback was in the pocket.
Any sort of tearing down of the concept that Brett Favre can do anything. In any situation, he can make it happen. And right now, there's just enough infighting. It's, not nowhere close to what the Washington Redskins are, but you've seen what's happened to the Redskins since all these distractions and all these things have been going on. This team simply hasn't been the same that they were a couple of weeks ago.
Of course, Minnesota's playing for a heck of a lot, and Washington's been out of it for weeks. 3rd down and 11 from the 40-yard line. pass is broken up, intended for Cartwright, and that's Brooking there to break it up, and it's 4th down and 11, and the Washington Redskins, down in a 3-possession game, will line up to go for it.
Yeah, and you know, Jason Campbell's done the best he can, I guess, tonight, but the Redskins running game is averaging about 1 yard a carry this evening. And Jason Campbell isn't to that point in his career yet where he can carry this football team, and this is sort of the proverbial waving of the white flag, I think, when you're not going for it here.
Unless they run a fake, which they've been known to do.
Now let's make sure there's not a timeout first.
Oh boy. Hunter Smith to punt. And Creighton will pull into the 16, and the Dallas Cowboys can chew up some of the clock on their way to postseason play. 17-0. As we were saying, the Redskins' third fewest points in the league in this decade. All of those coaches except for Marty Schottenheimer came from the offensive side of the ball. Marty was here that 1 year. And yet the paucity of scoring, and there's Barber after Washington has taken a timeout. Barber ruins that theory by picking up a first down here as the clock ticks down to 5.5 minutes.
Yeah, and sometimes the problem is that when you change styles so many different times, I mean, let's face it, Steve Spurrier and Joe Gibbs and Jim Zorn and Marty Schottenheimer couldn't be any more different. You're sort of alternating between power football on one hand, back to a spread them out with Steve Spurrier, back to power football with Joe Gibbs, back to West Coast offense with Jim Zorn. Your drafting can never catch up with your team.
Barber to the 32. Well, a sea change in Washington. You know that Vinny Serrano was here running football operations for a lot of years. Now it's Bruce Allen. Clearly they'll make a coaching change. The favorite would be Mike Shanahan at the moment. And that'll bring a lot of other assistant coaches in it as well. Who will play quarterback next year? We don't know. Will Clinton Portis ever don a Redskin uniform again? We don't know. The offensive line needs to be restructured. We know that. Defensively, got a few guys in there, but you know, they got to do some patching up as well. So a lot of stuff will be going on in Washington.
You know, really, I think defensively the tools are here to win football games. There's no question in my mind they have enough talent on that side of the ball. But, you know, sometimes you like to buy a fancy car, but if it has a bad engine, you're in trouble. And right now the engine, the offensive line of this football team, which is where they've made their reputation. I mean, we still have the Hogs in the crowd here. That's what has to happen here. They have to consistently draft top-end offensive linemen.
Redskins had taken a timeout there, and that ball is taken up to the 34-yard line. Fletcher again makes the tackle, and that will be the final timeout for the Redskins. Hey, we want to send along our holiday wishes and happy anniversary. The wedding picture of John and Virginia Madden, December 26, 1959. 50th anniversary for John and Virginia. And now the story can be told. Virginia flies to New York last year because for all the world it looks like we're going to do a game in New York for the last week of the season. So of course John doesn't fly. And what happens? Buffalo beats Denver the next to last week of the season, setting in motion the eventual firing of Mike Shanahan and us going to San Diego, and then John has to say goodbye to Virginia and get on the bus and travel out west.
You wonder how Virginia's adapting to having John around all the time. I wonder if she's ever thought, maybe, John, you want to take a trip somewhere? You want to go out and hang out with Al and Chris and watch a game?
All that cost John was about a $50,000 diamond necklace. And here is Felix Jones taking it up to the 38-yard line.
Virginia's a pistol now. You know, John's one of those personalities, and he's gregarious, and he's everybody's best friend, and you see him in the lobby of the hotel, and everybody's hanging around him, and Virginia just kind of is in total control, isn't she?
Of all the amazing things about the Maddens, John, of course, it's well known he doesn't fly, hasn't in 30 years. Virginia has a pilot's license.
Is that right?
I don't know if it's current, but she had one at one point.
I'm going to guess John never flew with her. I'm just going to go out there on that one. Happy anniversary, guys. That's great.
You bet. Timeout taken here. Score is 17-0. Let's go and take a look at the AFC playoff picture.
The Bengals in the playoffs.
There you go.
Clinching the division.
So Indianapolis home field. San Diego first round bye. We know that New England and Cincinnati, and if New England loses and Cincinnati wins next week, Cincinnati jumps to 3, but they're going to each host a wild card game. Jets, if they win next week against Cincinnati, they're in. Baltimore wins next week against Oakland, they're in. Denver and Houston and Pittsburgh all need help. Miami and Jacksonville, even 9-1-1 doesn't help at this point, but they're mathematically alive.
Who would you rather play at this point, Indy or San Diego? That's a tough one.
All I know is the only team the Minnesota Vikings don't want to see in the playoffs is us. This is Moss, and he gets rolled down to the 18-yard line.
Yeah, they haven't had a lot of luck when we've called their games, have they?
So Jim Zorn, he'll take his team next week to San Diego. They'll wrap that one up. And, of course, nothing is at stake there for the Chargers in that game. They're locked into the 2 seed and will have the following week off. But Jim Zorn got this job after he was originally hired as the offensive coordinator. Had never been a head coach, had never even been an offensive coordinator. Been the quarterback's coach on Mike Holmgren's staff at Seattle prior to coming here. And then he winds up getting the head coaching job before last season. And this is Moss. And we're not just saying it because chances are Jim won't be here next year, but he's always above board, straightforward, classy man.
One of the finest guys I know in the game, and between he and Steve Largent and the great passing combination that they were, about as good a guys as you'll meet.
Yeah, in a tough situation this year, always takes the high road. And Moss will be escorted to the sideline by Mike Jenkins.
You know, and for Jason Campbell and the combination, one of the reasons that Jim Zorn was brought here was because they were trying to develop Jason Campbell. And it is going to be very, very interesting to see in this organization. I don't think it's any secret at all. There was a pretty healthy debate. Jay Cutler was in the mix. Would they trade to try and get Mark Sanchez? They stuck with Jason Campbell, and now they have that same decision to make again.
Campbell will run. Slides to a stop at the 40-yard line.
Seeing him slide there, of course, Jim Zorn had all these crazy drills that he did with Jason Campbell. One of them was teaching him how to slide. They brought out a slip and slide to try and teach him. He tried to do it. His cleat got caught in the slip and slide, and they just threw it away. It didn't work out, almost killed him.
They called Joe Girardi.
Yeah.
Cartwright to the 42-yard line gets taken down there by Brady James.
Well, I'll say this for Jason Campbell. He has been fighting this season, and there's proof of it. He was hit last week so many times by the New York Giants, came out of the game with a black eye.
And Rock Cartwright will pick up the first down with 2.5 minutes remaining before the Dallas Cowboys can start selling playoff tickets. Well, then again, they may not have a home playoff game. That depends.
You know, it really sets up an interesting showdown. Who's playing better than the Philadelphia Eagles right now?
Right. And that pass is caught by Cartwright as we come to the 2-minute warning. Dos minutos remaining. 17-0 Dallas. Second down and 7. The ball is at the 48-yard line. And that's Moss to the 41-yard line. Campbell will flip that one away. 2nd down and 10. Well, the Redskins, and when it goes south, it really goes south. Cowboys' first season was 1960. Didn't score a touchdown against Dallas in Arlington on November 22nd, and they're on the cusp of duplicating that ignominious feat tonight.
I'll tell you though, this Cowboys defense has played well. They did a number on the Saints early in that game. The Saints got some late points, but since Wade Phillips has taken over this defense, they have been pretty dynamic, and I think they're getting better. I mean, when you look at Anthony Spencer and Marcus Ware on the outside, they can really bring it.
Cowboys last year, last game, playoff berth at stake. Philadelphia beats them, annihilates them 44-6 in Phillies. And now the two teams will meet next week. Each knows it's going to the playoffs, but who's going to be at home and who's going to be on the road?
But that was a dysfunctional team a season ago. I mean, let's face it, this team has a different bond.
And that pass will be caught over the middle by Fred Davis.
You know, they took such a big chance getting rid of Terrell Owens, and because you just couldn't assume that Miles Austin was going to have the kind of year that he's had. They thought maybe Patrick Creighton, maybe Sam Hurd, but that guy right there has just filled the shoes so beautifully.
And the pass is incomplete. Jenkins covering Moss on the play as Campbell hits the turf.
You know, and when you talk to Tony Romo about that, he said, you know, this team is just so different this year. There was a cohesiveness that just didn't exist a year ago, and you can blame whoever you want and T.O. and whatever it is. But this is a team that came in humbled after that Philadelphia loss, and they have just continued to make plays all season long.
Well, that's picking up the slack, isn't it?
It's remarkable. I mean, it really is for a guy that really never was drafted, and to come up with 11 touchdowns from week 5 on. And that's what you have to remember. He didn't play much at all before that.
2nd and 10, avoiding the blitz. And Campbell will run out of bounds as he was able to avoid Scandrick.
Yeah, he said, I saw Orlando Scandrick that time.
Right.
Orlando's the one that hit him pretty good the time before. And, you know, you just hope for Jason Campbell he can stay in a single system for a while. You know, every single year he just has a different offensive coordinator and a different plan. And if he's here in Washington, it's going to be yet another plan. But if it's a guy like Mike Shanahan, that's a pretty good plan. Well, we saw what Jay Cutler has done without Mike Shanahan.
3rd and 5 as Campbell will go down in the arms of Ratliff. Jay Ratliff bellowing to the heavens. And again, that's his 2nd sack of his teammate from Auburn.
Yeah, he finally got his shot here against Will Montgomery, and that is no match. Ratliff, one of the fastest nose tackles in the game.
And 4th down and 11. That will write a finish to it after one Dallas kneel down. And that's the way the Redskin home season is going, Dan. And as we said, it's not quite hockey town. It ain't Detroit yet, but at least for the moment. Tough year for the Redskins, tough year obviously for their fans.
Redskins just can't put the puck in the net, can they?
No, they cannot. And Wade Phillips and the Dallas Cowboys, kind of strange year. And if you go back to in this Cowboy season and you want to look at, I don't want to say necessarily the moment, but a seminal moment would be that game in Kansas City in October when they were 2-2 and trailing at halftime to the then winless Chiefs, and they won the game in overtime to start a 4-game winning streak. They went through that speed bump of the Giant and San Diego losses. Follow that up with a big win at New Orleans, another win at Washington, and the Dallas Cowboys will be involved in postseason play. And they could be anything from the 2 seed all the way down to 6.
And be careful of teams that get hot late.